This show is produced by the Hartman Media Company. For more information and links to all our great podcasts, visit hartmanmedia.com.
Welcome to the AIPIS show for accredited income property investment specialists and those who aspire to be. If you're a real estate, mortgage, or financial professional, this is the place for you. We'll explore innovative investment analysis, sales, marketing, and income-generating strategies for the most historically proven wealth creator, income property. Learn from the experts as they show you how to build a better business and a better life.
Welcome to the show. This is Jason Hartman, your host, and every 10th episode we do something kind of special, kind of different. What we do is we go off topic. So regardless of which show it is on the Hartman Media Network, whether it be one of the financial shows, economics, real estate investing, travel, longevity, all of the other topics that we have, every 10th episode we go off topic and we explore something of general interest, something of general life success value. And so many of our listeners around the world in 164 countries have absolutely loved our 10th episode shows. So that's what we're going to do today. And let's go ahead and get to our guest with a special 10th episode show. And of course, on the next episode, we'll be back to our regular programming. Here we go. It's my pleasure to welcome Vince Everett Ellison to the show. He is the author of The Iron Triangle, How Democrats Are Using Race to Divide Americans in Their Quest for Power and How We Can Stop Them. Vince, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you on. Where are you located?
I'm located right outside of Lynchburg, Virginia, in a small town called Amherst, between Lynchburg and Charlottesville.
Excellent. Well, you know, your book is being called one of the most important books in America since 1619. And I don't know what book was written in 1619. Maybe you can help. But,
1619 was the days that the first slaves came to America. The New York Times is having this thing called the 1619 Project, where they're trying to destroy the whole concept of what America was. So we decided to say the book is going to set a lot of things straight.
Got it. Well, that's great. It's good that, you know, we're hearing another side to this, because all you hear in the mainstream media is this political correctness, and it's like the same exact narrative everywhere. Tell us why you believe this narrative is faulty.
Well, I was born on a cotton plantation in Haywood County, Tennessee. My father was a sharecropper. My father and my mother, when I was born, were sharecroppers. My father worked hard and through the insurance industry got us out of poverty. I went to the church, baptized a Baptist, grew up kind of a good American middle-class life. And I went to college and I started working in the prison system. And when I started working there in the 90s, I saw a lot of black men being locked up, a lot of men, period. And when I asked the black intelligentsia what was going on, because I thought we had overcome, they said it was these rich white Republicans that were doing it. And they were just mean, vicious, and evil and locking up these black men. So I decided to start a nonprofit organization to stop locking black men up and to try to keep them out of jail. And when I got down there in the black community, I found out something very interesting. I didn't see any rich white Republicans anywhere. Matter of fact, I found out I could see a leprechaun before I saw a rich white Republican down in the black community. But what I did see was a lot of black preachers, black politicians, and black civic organizers. And I call these cats the Iron Triangle. And their job was to do one thing. They were paid contractors, and they were paid by these liberals from New York City and California to one end. Their job was to make sure the black community voted 90% for the Democrat Party, period. Didn't matter what was going on, how they did it. They needed 90% of the black vote to stay in power. They got that black vote during the civil rights movement, and they'll kill black people before they let it go, because all their power, all of it, rests upon keeping the black people completely exactly where they are, just like it was. All their power rested in that during slavery. It rests in this right now. So all of this that you see right now in America, same thing, is to keep us afraid, keep us believing that we are under the 8 ball here in America, that we cannot do it on our own. The white Democrats leave us, that the rich white Republicans will kill us. And all of this is a charade to keep us afraid and keep us on the plantation. And that's what you're seeing every day.
Vince, you know, it seems pretty logical that, you know, if you want to control a segment of the population, you make them dependent Look, children are dependent on their parents because they need their parents to take care of them. So their parents are in control. This seems like it's exactly what's going on in several minority communities, not just the Black community, where you've got these political groups that keep telling people that they're less, they're not enough, they can't do it without us. This narrative is so offensive, isn't it?
Well, it is offensive, but the Black experience here in America is much different than the white experience. Remember, most of the white people that came here on their own. They were fed up with Europe, and they decided to leave. And these guys had moxie. I mean, they took their last dime, and they jumped on the ship, and they paid their fare, and they came to America with nothing but the rags on their back, and they were looking for freedom. Mm-hmm. Black people came here differently. They were sold. They came up to America. They were sold again. They were made. Everything was stripped from them, and they were told a different thing about America. They were told you were inferior. You're nothing. You're less than everybody. And that's been beaten down into the heads of Black people to a point where now white people don't have to say it. We tell our children that. And it was never, ever. And I guess one of the failings of America is that after slavery, they never got that out of the Black community. Matter of fact, white Southerners still benefited from it after the Civil War. So we still have that same slave mentality. And it's hard to get it out because it's generational now. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, when you read history, it's this thing on Roots, the scene on Roots that I will never forget. When I was a little boy, I saw Roots on television.
I remember seeing Roots a few times when I was a little kid. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you remember this scene, it was this Black slave mother escorting her daughter to the cabin of the overseer to be raped. The mother was taking her there. Frederick Douglass wrote in My Bondage, My Freedom, his first memory was his grandmother taking him on a 12-mile hike and turning him over to another plantation, slipping out the back door, and he never saw her again. She turned him over to be a slave. When you start looking at us, you see that we are involved a lot in our own destruction. Black people are telling their children that there is such thing as white supremacy and that white people have some type of privilege over them. Black people are telling them that you better not vote for a Republican. It is us that's doing the damage. And that's where this book comes in. We have to change that.
Right. So does the welfare state make that worse? And I would especially point out aid to families with dependent children. Some will say that has really just destroyed Black families because you're basically paying people to not have a family unit. And that, that started in the Civil Rights Movement. I have in my book a chapter that shows that between 1940 and 1960, the Black Americans were excelling at a faster rate than any other people in the United States. And then in the 60s, when the Moynihan report came out telling America that Black people saw a trend that we were getting on welfare. And so they told the Civil Rights Movement that this is what we're going to do. We're going to put the Black man back in charge of his family. And I have it documented where when they took this to the civil rights community, to Martin Luther King Jr. and all of them, they said that they went crazy. They said no. So they put the man out clause into the welfare bill. And the man out clause dictated that the man had to be out of the house before the woman could receive any welfare. So we went from 80% of our children being born in two-parent families to 80% being born out of wedlock in one generation. And it was all because of government. Yeah. So the man out clause, meaning the man couldn't be in the household if the mother wanted to receive the government aid to families with dependent children, right?
Exactly. Look, Black people were always poor, but we weren't criminals. They were poor, but we got married. Right. Poverty has nothing to do with this whatsoever. Mm-hmm. This is a plan by the Democrat Party. You're looking at a cultural genocide in real time. You're talking about what they're doing in China to the Uyghurs. No. They're doing this in America right now to the Black community. Mm-hmm. When you look at TV and you see people burning down their own communities, you look at dystopia. Right. But it's also double-mindedness and it's learned helplessness at the same time.
Right.
Look, I'm a Christian. Mm-hmm. And as a Christian, I cannot be a victim. Mm-hmm. It's impossible. I'm an heir of Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. I'm more than a conqueror. And I'm supposed to practice forgiveness, forbearance, and love. Mm-hmm. Period.
Right.
That's what I'm supposed to do. Yet you have a bunch of Christians out there. 85% of the Black community say they're Christian. Mm-hmm. And they're running around saying no justice, no peace, burning down buildings, saying that they're victims, saying that we got to stop white supremacy. And it's victimization. Mm-hmm. You cannot be a Christian and be a victim. Yeah. This is how the Iron Triangle, the Black preacher, the Black civic organizer, and all these guys have lied to the Black community. You'll see Black preachers out there like Sharpton and Jackson saying the same exact thing, telling Black Christians that they're victims. Yeah, that is an apostate. That is a lie.
I don't think Martin Luther King would be at all pleased with the way this has evolved, would he?
I don't know, because Dr. King kind of started it. He went to Washington, D.C., and he said, and I was wondering why these young men were all kneeling 2-3 years ago. So I heard, I went to the Lorraine Motel, and they have a museum there, and they were looping Dr. King's speech. And I heard him say something that I heard 1,000 times, and I have a dream speech, but I've not heard it in this context. He said, 100 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, the Negro is still not free. That is a lie. I was born free. And I started hearing Kaepernick and all these guys say, I want my freedom. Well, see, you exercise your freedom. You don't ask for it. It's yours.
Right.
And these young men have been told over the last 50 years by leaders in power that they're not free. And that is an absolute bald-faced lie. And King said it in the I Have a Dream speech. He also said that we come to Washington to get our unalienable rights. No, your unalienable rights are given you by God. They're irrevocable, non-transferable, unsellable.
Yeah.
So they started it, and they told black people they're supposed to go to government for everything they wanted and not God. And it sent us down this path, and we hadn't turned around from it yet.
So the seeds of that were set by King, who, was obviously a great man, but, he couldn't have seen the way this would have turned out. So
look, I'll tell you what, a tree is known by the fruit it bears, right?
Sure.
All right. So when you look at the fruit of the civil rights movement, you tell me one thing we've gained.
Yeah. Okay.
Nothing.
Question.
Not one single solitary thing. Matter of fact, we've gone backward. Name something we've gained through the civil rights movement.
Interesting.
Nothing.
It would seem from an outsider like a lot has been gained by the African American community. But
like what? I want to hear it.
Well, the right to sit where you want, no more
segregation. What is that, man? To be able to sit beside a racist?
Yeah.
To have a hamburger beside a racist Ku Klux Klan member? How is that a gain?
Yeah, well, fair enough. Fair point. What are the three sides of the Iron Triangle? You've got the preacher.
The black preacher, the black politician, and the black civic organizer.
Okay. The civic organizer.
Yeah. Black Lives Matter, NAACP, SCLC.
Acorn.
The ones that are out there, Acorn, all of those. They're out there organizing the black people for the Democrat Party, for the Democrat vote, period. These people fight for one-party rule. Now, how are you a leader when you know that any leader should give their people an option? They fight for one-party rule in the black community.
Yeah.
That's totalitarianism, man. That's not freedom. You can't have freedom with one-party rule.
You've got a chapter about communism and Marxism infiltrating the black church. Tell us about that.
Well, they started it in the 60s. And when they started, it came through during the civil rights movement. As a matter of fact, I have in my book, there's a statement from the Comintern in Moscow, where they gave their people in the civil rights movement a basic order. And they said that, and Taylor Bratch wrote this in his book, Parting the Waters. He said in 1956, the Communist Party in Moscow ordered that their agents in the civil rights movement, they wanted to establish a separate national development for American Negroes modeled on the Soviet republics. They were given an order to do it in 1956. 1956, they were ordered to do it. Yeah. And they did it. Because right now, what do we have? One party rule, dictator worship, poverty, drugs, family breakdown. We do not pray to God anymore. We pray to the state. Yeah. And there is a Marxist tenet, and you know this, that under the tenets of Marxism, the individual does not possess any inherent value. He can be discarded. He can be killed. Yep. That's why they can kill these people down there like they do and treat them like they do and not worry about them because they have no value to them whatsoever.
Right.
Their job is to make sure that they please the state, period. The state needs it. You die for it. End of story. That's who they are. And they've been killing my people for the last 60 years. The Democratic Party is a death cult. Mm-hmm. They abort half the children. Of the ones that survive abortion, they send them to schools that don't work. And half of them don't graduate. So then, then they take them and put them in jail, and then they do them like George Floyd, and they end up killing them. George Floyd's murder was a visual representation of everything the Democratic Party has been doing to my people for the last 60 years.
And the interesting thing about that, too, is the police brutality rates, the crime rates, they're the highest in all of the Democrat-run cities. It is.
And what do they do tell black men to do? Turn in your gun.
Right.
Why?
Yeah.
Now, why they say I'm being hunted? Mm-hmm. I'm being hunted by these people. I mean, you said, well, I tell you what, turn your gun in. Why don't you just be expeditious and blow your own damn brains out? That's ridiculous. Yeah. If you're being hunted, don't you think they say, well, since you're being hunted, you need a gun, man, because that guy's going to kill you. Yeah, no, right. They say you're being hunted, turn your gun in.
Yeah. Well, they want to make everybody defenseless so that the government is the only ones with the guns, obviously. Yeah.
There it is. And the most important thing your listeners need to understand is that they're going to do this all over America. Joe Biden said, I'm proud of my record in the black community. He's proud that they abort half their children.
Mm-hmm.
He's proud that most of the people live in poverty. He's proud that none of the schools work. He's proud that the family's been broken down. He's proud of the crime and the drugs and the defunding of the police. He's proud of it. Now, that means if he's proud of it, he's going to try to duplicate it, right?
Yep.
There it is. So y'all better watch out because they're coming for y'all, but they're coming for white America next.
Yeah.
See, they didn't get me and my family. They didn't get us because we believe in God and we believe in America, and we become entrepreneurs and we become wealthy and we become successful in this country. But most of the people I know, they didn't get out of it, and they believe this lie. And the hardest thing for you to do is make them believe that they can make it in America because they've been told, even by Martin Luther King Jr., how can you pull yourself up by your bootstraps when you don't have boots? Yeah, he said that. Yep. He said that. And then when he says it, America says he was a great leader. Now, how can you be a great leader when you're telling your people stuff like that?
Yeah, right. Well,
that you don't even have bootstraps.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. I'm going to re-examine King and some of his thoughts and speeches.
Well, I'll tell you what you also need to do is go down to his monument in Washington, D.C., and you'll find out that they don't have a mention of God anywhere on that monument. You know why? Because they knew this wasn't a Christian movement, and the Iron Triangle allowed it. Now, you know, when they got that quote wrong about him being a drum major for justice, well, they spent almost $1 million changing that one quote. But when it came down to the fact that God wasn't mentioned anywhere on that monument, the preachers, Barack Obama, SELC, they said nothing, not one blessed word. They didn't say he was a reverend. They didn't say that he formed an organization called the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And God, all the quotes King had about God throughout his ministry. One.
This is what every dictator everywhere on planet Earth throughout history has always done. They've always eliminated any belief in a higher power because the highest power has to be them. It has to be government, and you can't believe in anything beyond government. Government is the highest power. That's exactly right. That's their whole deal. So yeah, it's unbelievable.
That's the very reason why they got that. That's why they have prayer out of schools. That's the reason why they try to make it difficult for Americans to practice their religion anywhere. That's who these people are. Yeah. And we better wake up to it. And that's why these young people, all of them out here, most of them white, talking about Black Lives Matter, they don't know anything.
No, they're just virtue signaling fakes. I mean, it's unbelievable.
That's all. You know? That's all. Yeah. And they know nothing about sacrifice, about religion, about God, about standing firm about who you are, because they've been told that the white man can do anything he wants if he only wants to. See, you're not rich because the white man doesn't want you rich. Yeah. If he wanted you to be rich, you'd be rich. They turned the white man into God.
That's unbelievable. Yeah, it really is. It's unbelievable. And it's interesting. And you can go to a protest rally during COVID, but you can't go to church. God forbid. No. Pardon the pun.
No. Can't do that. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They know that John Locke wrote a book, The Second Treatise of Government. The reason why we could separate ourselves from the king was because the king cannot trace his lineage back to Adam. And therefore the king had no power over us. He said, therefore we're equal. We're all equal. And he told the people, because of that, you have a right to lead the king. He is not your king. And he said, all of our rights come from God. Every last one of them. So if you destroy God, where do the rights come from?
Yeah.
It comes from government.
It comes from government.
And so they have to destroy God in America before they can destroy the government. That's who they are.
Very good points, Vince. I'm glad you're out there spreading the message. The book has excellent reviews, by the way. Go ahead and get the book. It's called The Iron Triangle, How Democrats Are Using Race to Divide Americans in Their Quest for Power and How We Can Stop Them. Vince, wrap it up for us. Give out your website, too.
You go to irontrianglebook.com, irontrianglebook.com. I have blogs there. I have excerpts from the book. Also, if you can't get the book at Amazon because they seem to be sold out a lot there, go to Barnes & Noble, Walmart, or Target.com, and you can get them there. You can get it there.
Good stuff. Vince, thank you so much for joining us.
It is my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. Be sure to check out the show's specific website and our general website, hartmanmedia.com, for appropriate disclaimers and terms of service. Remember that guest opinions are their own, and if you require specific legal or tax advice or advice in any other specialized area, please consult an appropriate professional. And we also very much appreciate you reviewing the show. Please go to iTunes or Stitcher Radio or whatever platform you're using and write a review for the show. We would very much appreciate that. And be sure to make it official and subscribe so you do not miss any episodes. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.